All right. Last time we met, we spent time talking about healthy eating, physical activity, and restful sleep. Today we're going to start on page 21, I hope it says 21 in your book, session 4, The Power of Human Connections, Service to Others, and Support Network. Before we read anything, I want to gauge the minds of everyone in the room. Examples of service to others. What do you think? What does service to others mean to you? An example of being of service to others. Because the reason I'm asking you is because I want you to open your minds, because it includes everything. What do you think service to others? What is an example of service to others? I know one that you do on a regular basis and have for years, even though the others may not realize you're doing it for them.
Collect cans.
Yep. Recycling. That's a very broad, general, but it is still, do you consider that service to others?
Yeah, I'm reducing my carbon footprint.
Okay. Anyone else? An example of service to others?
Caregiving.
That's actually very personal and very stressful in my opinion. But that's definitely service to others. What's a very small example of service to others?
Lending money?
Ooh. Giving money.
Think really small.
Saying hello?
I'm going to go ahead and add my contribution. Opening a door for somebody who's got their hands full. And this one I've been working on, and it's really difficult for me. Hopefully it's not difficult for you. Being nice to someone I don't get along with.
That's a challenge.
But when I can manage to pull it off, it makes me feel better too, and I think it makes the other person feel better. So, what are some other examples?
You feel better if you're nice to your ex?
Actually, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't.
So, anyone else? Service to others. Julianne? Can you think of anything?
Praying for people.
My ex.
I'm going to add a couple more examples when you guys are done thinking of anything. Brian, can you think of anything else? Service to others. Big or small. Anything that you consider being of service to other people.
Cooking dinner?
All right. I'm going to add some general ones in here. If I get my mind will work right this morning. And it's not working, so we'll move on. Now let's read about service to others and support network. Page 22, I'll read the first paragraph and I'll ask a volunteer to read a little bit for us. The power of human connections. Service to others and support network both have to do with human connections. Dr. Gregory Perchione, director of the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital, speaks of these two being one, or the flip side of the same coin. He states that humans need connectedness to survive. This connectedness is at the core of why peer support and self-help are so effective, proving essential to recovery from trauma, especially trauma associated with abuse and neglect that can result in fear and isolation. There is a healing power in knowing you are not alone. Many people talk about this as part of their recovery story. So, sometimes somebody just needs to talk, and you can be of service to somebody by just listening to what they want to talk about, listening to what they have to say. That was one of the examples I was trying to think of when I was up there. Who would like to read the next paragraph or two for us? Anybody? If not, that's okay. Going once, Dr. Dean Ornish is a cardiologist who places great importance on the healing power of loving relationships. In his best-selling book, Love and Intimacy, he states, anything that promotes feelings of love and intimacy is healing. Anything that promotes isolation, separation, loneliness, loss, hostility, anger, cynicism, depression, alienation, and related feelings often leads to suffering, disease, and premature death from all causes. When you feel loved, nurtured, cared for, supported, and intimate, you are much more likely to be happier and healthier. You have a much lower risk of getting sick, and if you do, a much greater chance of surviving. In his book, Dr. Ornish references research, and this is important, that shows people with the strongest social ties had dramatically lower rates of disease and premature death than those who felt isolated and alone. And those who lacked regular participation in organized social groups had a fourfold increased risk of dying 6 months after open heart surgery. I've also heard, have you guys ever heard that as men get older, single men die younger than married men? I believe that. All right, anyone else like to read the last big paragraph for us?
Single women probably live longer.
Because they don't have to put up with the men.
Living in isolation not only increases wear and tear at the cellular level, but it is also a highway to super stress. Everyone needs a supportive person or two with whom to share good and bad times. Being able to vent, cry, or just have someone listen is often enough to put a stressful situation into perspective. In fact, most scientific studies cite social support as the #1 determinant of how people handle a stressful situation. In any surgical waiting room, there are usually several supportive waiters for every patient being operated on. Belonging to a community, whether it's a knitting circle, a sports league, cat fanciers club, or a monthly dinner group with friends, is an important strategy to handle stress. Support groups and services in service to others plays a major role in initiating and sustaining recovery in the lives of people with mental illness and addiction.
All right, how has service to others and having a support network helped you relative to your mental health, addiction, and overall health and wellness? Anybody? How has not having a support network hurt you relative to your mental health?
Makes you feel isolated.
All right. Let's go ahead and go through the questions on page 23. And since there are so few people, remember the rules. I have the right to ask questions. You have the right to refuse to answer and participate to whatever extent you feel comfortable. So I'm going to ask everybody to answer, but if you don't feel like answering, just say pass or no thank you, something like that. And nobody's going to push you to answer. These are some of the things that I have done or am currently doing that I would define as service to others. Well, I do open the door for my neighbors when I'm sitting outside and somebody has their hands full with groceries. I help my neighbors carry up groceries up to their apartment. Let's see. I am trying to be more social and just saying hello and smiling at people, even people I don't know. I don't recycle as much as I probably should. I do go around, and I consider this service to others. People in my neighborhood, I live in a really big apartment complex. People in my neighborhood drop trash on the way to the dumpster, falls out of their bag, or they'll throw things out of their car. And I'll go around the front of my building and pick up trash and walk it to the dumpster. I think picking up trash is service to others, even though they didn't ask for it or sometimes deserve it. Pray for people. I pray for people every night. Anything you guys want to add that you do currently that you consider service to others?
Peer support.
Peer support. What about? I like simple examples. What about giving somebody advice, helping somebody hook up a TV set, helping somebody figure out how to use a phone. Those are some other small things that I do. Maybe helping somebody change the brakes on their car or check the oil. Or my neighbors sometimes will give me menu tips because I'm not a cook. but I want to cook more meals for my kids. And sometimes my neighbors will say, hey, why don't you try this? It only takes 20, 30 minutes and your kids might like it. So they've given me some cooking tips. So a lot of little things like that, I think, are service to others, kind of service to others too. Anything you guys currently do?
Calling friends so they can talk to you.
Yeah, I like that. I think sometimes a lot of people just want somebody to listen to them.
Giving people transportation, a ride someplace and shopping for people.
That's good enough. I like that one. Giving a ride to somebody. Giving somebody advice. Teaching somebody something. And that could be, like I said, how to change a tire, how to, telling somebody what channel to find their favorite sports game is on tonight. Little things count too. Anyone else? Helping others has the following effect on me. Anybody?
Makes you feel good and positive that you lent your hand to a fellow human being.
I agree. Anybody else? How does helping somebody else make you feel?
Makes them feel good.
What effect does that have on you, making somebody else feel good?
It gives you a sense of purpose.
Okay. Anyone else? Julianne?
I agree.
Anything new, Chris?
I've got a saying that I use sometimes.
What's that?
It says, you may be only one person in the world, but you also may be the world to one person.
I like that. That's really cool. That reminds me of something Mother Teresa said. What you're doing may only be a drop in the ocean, but we wouldn't have an ocean without all the drops that are in it. So I thought it was pretty cool. One effect that it has on me that surprises me sometimes is it makes me less cynical about the world, especially if somebody does something nice for me when they are of service to me. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I'll think, oh, the world sucks, everyone sucks, everyone's mean and selfish, and I'll see somebody do something nice for somebody else, or somebody will do something nice for me, and it'll make me a little less cynical about the world and about people in general. Next question. The following are some places to volunteer in my community. Now this is important. It doesn't have to be somewhere you volunteer. It doesn't have to be somewhere you ever want to volunteer. What are some of the places in the greater Cincinnati area where a person can volunteer?
No-kill shelters.
Yep, I used to volunteer at a place called League for Animal Welfare. I stopped, but that's a lot of those shelters love volunteers, because the volunteers, if nothing else, they can come in and take the dogs for a walk, which makes the dogs happier and easier to adopt out. So, what are other places to volunteer?
I put nursing, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I put nursing home like in a child care center.
Okay. Anyone else?
Red Cross.
Red Cross, Matthew 25 Ministries, those are some good organizations like that. St. Vincent de Paul.
Vineyard has what's called a healing center. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, at church, at your church. Yeah, we don't have to, we can think outside the box, and we don't, you can volunteer at a place that's not a nonprofit. You can volunteer at your church, you can volunteer anywhere, government. Anyone else? Any ideas, places in the community to volunteer? All right, what are 3 to 5 things a person might start doing on a regular basis to provide more service to others? Now, one of the reasons why I like doing lists is because it helps us answer some of these questions sometimes if we can't think of anything else. Well, you can do any of those, obviously, because that's the list we came up with. What are some other things people can start doing on a more regular basis to be of service to others?
Give compliments.
Give compliments? I like that. I'm right on board. Give compliments. That's a real good one. Anyone else?
Check on a neighbor that doesn't get out that much.
Ooh, I like that. Check on, I'm gonna put isolated neighbors. And I would also add to that elderly or sick neighbors. All right, so that is service to others. Now we're going to move on to a different topic. And before I turn the page and we answer the questions about support network, what are members of your support network? If you can't think of anything, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and start answering because I usually would, in general, say to people, I don't have very many friends or family in the area, so I don't have a support network. But when you really think about support network, the way that the book described it, well, everyone here at the Recovery Center is a part of my support network, whether I use them or not. That makes sense? Whether they may not help some days. Some days I may leave here thinking, man, why do I even bother going there? Nobody understands me. You know, no one will ever understand me because I'm so messed up in the head. You know what I mean? So even when they don't help, they're still part of my support network. And I'm going to write down a couple that really might surprise you because most people, when they think of support network, I think they think of a friend, a significant other, a family member. But my therapist / case manager, all of my providers are part of my support network. It's one-sided because they're getting paid to help me, but still, they are supporting me. That make sense? My kids, even though I would never lean on them to complain about something really dark or serious because I don't want to burden them with anything like that. I want them to enjoy being kids. They're part of my support network because even if they don't know what I'm suffering with, you know, them wanting to play, my youngest son wanting to play, you know, kick the ball back and forth or whatever. My kids are part of my support network. I'll put family. Some members of my family are the opposite of supportive, so they're definitely not part of my support network. So this is not all-inclusive for me, but some of my family members are part of my support network. I wouldn't consider them really close friends yet, but I've gotten to know a couple of my neighbors. We can sit out there and talk some evenings. Sometimes I'll vent about my ex-wife. They'll complain about theirs. They'll complain about their jobs. We'll all complain about the apartment manager. And that's a form of support. Venting to somebody, bouncing your feelings and ideas off of other people. That helps you affirm them, or you know, sometimes other people will say, well, you know, David, you know, they're not too bad. You know, you should look at it this way. So neighbors can be part of your support network. Anyone else? Who's part of your support network?
My friends.
Anyone else? If you can't think of anything, think of examples of people or types of people or groups of people who could be part of your support network or somebody else's. I know that if I were to start going back to church, I would probably have a much bigger support network. People from church. I used to have a bunch of hobbies, and I know if I were to start getting back into euchre or photography, I'd probably start meeting new people and hanging out with some people who had shared interest, and my support network could grow that way too. What are some other examples of people who are in your support network or could be in your support network? Anybody?
Teacher.
Teachers? If you have a volunteer job or part-time job or full-time job, coworkers could be part of your support network. And I'll just put employer. And if you have a bad relationship with a coworker or a boss, maybe they're the opposite of supportive, but it could be part of your support network. Any other ideas? Any way that you can get supported. Think about,
281 care?
huh?
281 care? Chat lines?
Yep, that's what I was getting ready. 281 care. Hotlines. I know that Christ Hospital has a depression bipolar support group every week. They also have, and we have a flyer up on board, an anxiety support group every week. So support groups. And support's in the name, so of course that's part of your support network. Here's something that'll surprise you. Remember, anything that supports you, whether they want to or getting paid to do it or not, even if they're not nice to you, if you get support from an organization or a person, they are part of your overall support network. So what are some agencies that help people? Even when I've heard a lot of people, and I've even complained about some of the people at the agency, but what are some agencies that support people?
United Way.
Family,
I knew
you know
were talking
what?
about them.
I like United Way. And I'm going to put Red Cross in parentheses, just so we know that we're covering all those nonprofit agencies. Job and Family Services.
St. Vincent de Paul does a lot of work.
Yeah. I'm going to put them down. And food pantries. Vineyard in Eastgate used to have a food pantry in the back of their church where they moved. Food pantries. Free Store Food Bank. Any other ideas? All right, let's turn the page. Page 24. These are some very pointed questions, and they may be difficult to answer if you don't have a large support network. And I hope nobody gets depressed and gets triggered, because I remember the first time that I took this class, I got depressed when we talked about this section, because I used to, and still do to a large degree, spend most of my time alone. I isolate a lot. Some of these questions actually made me depressed the first time I took the class. So if you don't have any answers and you want to just talk about the answers, the questions in general, you can do that as well. I can trust the following people to be there for me. First time I ever read that question, my answer was, I can't trust anybody. Nobody can trust anybody, because people aren't trustworthy. But I can trust that Job and Family Services is going to be there for me, whether I like how they're there for me or not.
Oh, boy.
I can trust that my therapist is going to be there for me because she's getting paid to be there for me. So if you think of it outside the box like that, I can trust my ex-wife is going to be there for me. She may give me an attitude sometimes, but I know that if my car breaks down on the side of the road during my visitation time and the kids are with me and I need somebody to come pick up me and the kid, she will come pick up me and the kids. She might huff and puff about it, but that's being supported, coming and picking me up if my car breaks down on the side of the road. Don't you guys agree? Who can you trust to be there for you?
I've got two friends
Two friends?
that are high water, low water, whatever, they're
I think the word trust is a tricky word, because I trust my therapist to listen to me, but I don't trust my therapist to loan me money if I need money. I don't trust my therapist to be there if I want to talk in the middle of the night, you know what I mean? So how you trust somebody and what you trust them to do, or, you know, what you trust from them can be different from person to person. So, anyone else?
Partner?
Significant other? Okay. I can trust my kids to be there for me. They can't support me if I'm depressed, because I don't want to put that burden on them, but I know they'll be there for me to make me laugh, or, you know, listen to my stupid jokes. What do you call a fish with 10 eyes? Fish. F-I-I-I-I-I-I.
Yes, I got you. Okay.
Anyone else? Who can you trust to be there for you? See, my kids, I can trust to laugh at that joke.
Oh, right.
Sometimes they laugh because it's really stupid. Sometimes they laugh because it's funny.
Okay.
How do fish stay thin?
Huh? I don't know.
They eat fish.
Okay, who can you trust to be there for you? Going once? Going twice? These are friends that I enjoy doing things with. I enjoy sitting outside my apartment building, if the weather's nice, sitting with my neighbors and just chatting. I enjoy doing that with them. Last time I had a girlfriend, I enjoyed having sex with her, and having romantic experiences with her. I don't know, can you call family friends? Depends on the family member, I guess. I enjoy talking with some of my family sometimes. Anyone else? Are there people in your life that you enjoy doing things with? Did anybody go to the Reds game last week?
I did.
You did. Okay, some people in my support network are. Now, you don't have to give us actual names, but the book wants you to write down their actual names. And it can be from any of these groups, or it can be somebody not mentioned in here, from a group not mentioned on the board. Some people in your support network. Did we miss any categories that you guys can think of? Person that cuts your hair,
Oh, my mailman is great.
mailman, I like that.
If I've got something special that comes, he'll knock on the door to let me know he's there.
You know, I would say this nice lady who owns a Gold Star restaurant out where I live, she's a franchisee. I go there often, once or twice a week, because it's cheaper and easier than cooking at home when the kids aren't there. And I'm a regular customer, so they know me by name. They say hi to me all the time. One time I was running low on money, and I went in, they said, "Oh, you're gonna get the usual?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm gonna go a little cheaper today." He said, "Let me get the small three-way instead of the extra large three-way." And she gave me I walked out and I got home and opened up the bag, and there was a extra large three-way in there. So she gave me the extra large
That was
three-way.
nice.
Yeah.
Are you sure she didn't charge you?
Yeah. So I would consider that part of my support network. We're not great friends, we're not dating, you know, but she's being nice to me. Remember the service to others. She committed a kind act that is considered service to others, so I would consider that part of my support network. Anyone else? All right. I attend a support group on a regular basis and finds it benefits me in these ways.
Socialization.
Socialization. Anyone else? Well, I hate to admit this, but sometimes it's just nice to sit and vent. And I'm using vent instead of the word that I want to use, but you know what I mean. Complain about my ex-wife, complain about my landlord, complain about Job and Family Services, complain about my doctor, complain about my therapist. Sometimes it's just nice to complain. You know, I'd consider that a benefit, being able to vent, and just complain. Anyone else? All right, what are 3 to 5 things a person might start doing on a regular basis to strengthen their support network?
Get out more.
Can you be specific? In what way? To
Just,
do what?
I mean, even if you just take a walk, take a drive. It doesn't really have to be, sometimes your journeys that are not planned work out better than the ones that you do plan.
Okay. How can that strengthen your support network? I know how, but I want you to
Well,
think.
it makes me feel good. It makes me, to know somebody cares and you sort of care about yourself.
So meeting new people. The more you get out, better the chance that you might meet new people. Anyone else? How can you strengthen your support network? Improve on one of these, start one of these, or do something new? Anybody?
Learn a new skill.
How's that going to strengthen your, I agree by the way, but how is that going to strengthen your support network?
It gives you something that may be in common with other people.
Yep, and we can bond with other people. We can bond through common interests. And I think that's a big one for support networks. Because I could go out and meet new people by going down to, what is it, East McMillan near UC, where they have the Waffle House and all those other restaurants and shops. But what new people am I going to meet down there?
People
18 through 22-year-old college students, who I probably don't have a lot in common with. So I'm probably not going to get new friends or a significant other or anything like that by meeting people that I don't have a lot in common with. Does that make sense? That's why I like that answer of learning new skills. And I'm going to put /hobby, because wouldn't we rather spend time with people that we have more in common with? So, of course, it can be interesting and rewarding and enriching to meet people from different cultures, different races, different neighborhoods, different age groups. But anything else you guys can think of? 3 to 5 ways a person could strengthen their support network. I'm going to say, and this goes to what you were saying, you said get out more. I'm going to say anything that's part of your existing support network. So with your therapist, you could be more open with friends and family. Talk to them more. Be more open with your providers. They're going to be able to support you better, which is going to strengthen your support network if you're more open and honest with them all the time.
A couple of those things that you have up there, you're really taking a big chance, I think.
What's that? Let's talk about it.
Like the coworker thing. When I worked, I didn't mix personal life or personal things with work.
That's an excellent point, but let's talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Because, let's go back. Social ties is how the doctor in that book that we read about defined support network.
Mhm.
And it's true. When somebody at the recovery center goes into the hospital or is sick, Chris will circulate a card amongst all the staff, and we'll send them a card. And he encourages staff to go visit them in the hospital. I can't mention any names for HIPAA reasons, but recently a person has been missing a lot of the recovery center, and Chris and Bill reached out to him to find out, and found out he was sick and he was staying in a hospital. And he reached out and encouraged staff to go visit this person. And we're not only are we not mixing business and pleasure, we are not allowed to hang out with members outside of the recovery center. I'm not allowed to date members, for example. I'm not allowed to go out and grab a coffee alone with even somebody of the same gender. So, yeah, we're not allowed to mix business and pleasure, but we want to support our members. Does that make sense? So by visiting that person in the hospital, we're being supportive. So there are different levels of
Right, that's what I was
supportiveness.
getting ready to say.
Yeah, but you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because that's an excellent point. Because we don't want, when I call JFS, I usually end up getting frustrated. Sometimes I feel like the person on the other end has a bad attitude. And I usually, put it this way, I usually always complain about my experiences with JFS. However, without JFS, I wouldn't have Medicaid. And I rely on that Medicaid to be able to afford to go to my doctors and get the medicines that I need and get the medical supplies that I need. That is part of my support system because my medicines support me. My Medicaid supports me. Does that make sense? I don't like it. I don't enjoy the experiences, but that's definitely part of my support network. My therapist, she makes me cry sometimes because she brings up really difficult things to think about and talk about. That's supporting me though. She is supporting me. And I believe she has my best interest in mind. I'm not her friend. I will never call her at home. She'll never call me at home. But she definitely supports me. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's just another way of looking at support in general. What are some other ways people can strengthen their support network? Or go to church more. Let's say that I start going to church for my next item, and I go to church every week, multiple times per week even, and I'm just sitting there. I don't talk to anybody, don't participate in any of their events. I just go, sit, listen, get up, leave. Now, personally, in this, I always try to be honest with in groups. Personally, I think that I would benefit a lot from doing that. From just going, sitting down, keeping my mouth shut, listening, observing, getting up when it's over, and leaving. How can I strengthen that support network component in my life if I start doing that? Participate more. And this goes with any of these things. Participate more. Go out with your friends more often. Call a friend more often. Call your family members more often. Just to see how they're doing, just to talk, just to listen. Maybe call 281-CARE, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline when I'm feeling depressed, even though I don't think I'm going to do anything to hurt myself. They're there to just listen when you're not feeling good too. Call the WHAM line when you feel like you need it. Go to support groups. Find support groups that may help you. Find support groups that you may be able to help other people with. Let's say that you used to have a gambling problem or some other addiction problem. And you don't think like you need the support group anymore because you've pretty much got your problem under control. You could be of service to others by going to a support group and listening to somebody who's struggling the way you used to struggle, and you could be there to provide some words of wisdom for them. Does that make sense? So you could strengthen your support network and be of more service to others by going to more support groups maybe, or going to support groups more often. What are some other ways we can strengthen our support network? Anybody? Okay. We are going to end this class the way it was supposed to have started, with a relaxation response. I'm going to write down, does anybody want me to leave this up?
But there's one thing I wanted to say. That
Yes,
was the other
ma'am.
one I was looking for. You've got advice down there.
Yes.
That's a tricky one also. At least I think so.
How do you think it's tricky? I agree with
If
you.
someone asks me, oh, hey, do you think such and such a thing? And I give them an answer, but I don't give advice unless somebody asks me. And I also tell them, do you really want to know what?
I asked too.
Oh, okay.
What about unsolicited advice that other people offer you that you aren't interested in and maybe don't plan on following? How do you feel about
Just
that?
politely tell them that, thank you for being concerned by trying to give me advice, but I don't really want it.
I love your concern about advice because that, in my opinion, and I want to know what you guys think about it, that is a good example of how to look at service to others and support network. Chris, as long as I'm not trying to trick you into doing the wrong thing, if I give you advice that you didn't ask for, that you don't want, that you would never follow in a million years, as long as you think that I meant well by trying to give you that advice, isn't that still being of service to others? Aren't I still part of your support network? I'd rather people who mean well give me advice that I don't want, that I'll never follow. And I'm not going to tell them to, oh, stop talking, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to be polite and listen as long as I think that they mean well and they have my best interest in mind. Don't you agree? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somebody asks you for advice, and you give them advice, and it ended up being bad advice, and they take your advice and it doesn't work out. As long as you didn't mean to hurt them, you were still doing service to others. Don't you agree?
Well, most people, if you give them advice and it doesn't work out, sometimes they get, and I found this to be true, get mad at the advice that you gave them, even though they asked for it. I think it's just one of those things that's really tricky.
It is.
Because you can lose friendships, and especially when it comes to kids. When you're gonna give somebody else advice about their children and they didn't ask for it or anything. It's just something I don't do. Like my girlfriend and her daughter had an argument. It was pretty bad. The daughter called me and asked me if I could think of anything that could get them back together. And I told her I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'll pray for you, and I hope something is going to work out eventually. I wasn't going to get involved in that because there's no way I could be a winner.
But you were of service to her by saying, I'm not going to touch that.
Oh,
with a
okay,
10-foot pole.
if you say
That make
so.
sense?
Yeah, I guess in a very loose way.
Well, when you think about support, service to others and support network in the broadest sense, the biggest perspective, that exchange between those two people, you and that other person, that was you two being part of each other's support network and being of service to each other. Does that make sense?
Well, what you're saying, what way can you put it?
I agree with you. Giving advice, I hate giving advice. I hate asking for advice, but because it can be tricky.
But if you
And there are
ask for it.
people who offer me advice all the time, and I'm really not interested, and it's hard for me to politely listen to it sometimes because I don't want it.
I just say,
But if I'm having a problem with my case manager at GCB, there's somebody who works here, who directs this place, who is a GCB employee, who I would want to go to and tell him what's going on and ask his opinion. So let's put advice, solicited advice / opinion. If my daughter is dating a boy, which she is, who is not treating her right, which she's not, I feel like I'm being of service to her by telling her that she deserves better. By telling her what behavior I don't think is good and why I don't think it's good. Does that make sense? I'm being of service to my daughter when I give my opinion about her boyfriend, who I do not like. But she loves him, so.
Well, if somebody insults me, I'm gonna give them my advice.
Is that being of service to others?
You know, sir.
Actually, we're getting way beyond I wish I wasn't being recorded right now. I think giving somebody your opinion when they're being a jerk. I think, my personal opinion, I think that's being of service to others, because sometimes people need to know, hey, you're kind of being a jerk right now. But that's just my personal opinion. Okay, so we're going to do a relaxation response. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Before I erase the list of service to others, if you don't mind, Cece, wouldn't you agree that there are people in your life who you would ask advice about a specific thing? Would you ask my advice about a cell phone? I'm a computer programmer who used to work for a cell phone company.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you're right, it is tricky, but I think that there are times when we can give somebody advice if we are very knowledgeable about a subject, or if we care very deeply, like my daughter, in dating somebody who's being mean to her sometimes.
Well, you're talking about an inanimate object opposed to the personal heartbeat, flesh type of thing.
Well-
Which the challenges are different, at least I think.
Well, at my age, I think that I know a lot more than an 18-year-old.
Well, yeah, I'm
So,
right.
but wouldn't you agree that there are some situations where you can help somebody by giving them advice? You can get help from somebody by asking them.
I don't, on the personal level, I don't give advice to friends, no.
Wow,
I've seen it destroy friendships.
wow. I can see that happening. I guess I should be glad that that hasn't happened to me too many times. Okay, for this exercise, we're going to combine first one we learned, which is while you breathe in, count to 4, and as you breathe out, count to 5. Try to breathe out just a little bit longer than you breathe in. And try to breathe deeply. Or, as you breathe in, say to yourself, I am safe. And as you breathe out, say to yourself, I am at peace. We're going to do that while repeating a sound. And I'm going to ask you guys to vote on which sound we're going to repeat. Your options are, well, you can pick anything you want. I'm going to throw some suggestions out there and then ask you guys what you want to hear. Rainforest sounds, ocean sounds, just the sound of rain on the roof, kittens purring. What sound do you want to repeat while we practice a relaxation response? Which, if you don't remember, let me give you a reminder. The relaxation response requires the repetition of a word, sound, phrase, or muscular activity. Today we're going to focus on a sound, along with passive disregard of everyday thoughts that come to mind. Does anybody remember what passive disregard means?
Don't become attached to it.
Huh?
Don't become attached.
That's right. It doesn't mean clear your mind. Let yourself get distracted, but when you get distracted, try to remember to put your mind back on your breathing and the sound that you're listening to. So does anybody have any requests for sounds that you want to listen to?
Rain.
Rain? Anyone else?
Great sound.
Okay. Let's see what this one sounds like. Not too bad. So I'll go ahead and start, and we'll do this for about 3 to 4 minutes. You can close your eyes if you want, you don't have to. Remember, you're going to get distracted. You're going to get distracted thinking about what's for lunch, or what you have to do this afternoon, or what you have to do when you get home. When you get distracted, just put your mind back on the actual sounds that you're hearing, or put your mind back on the counting. So you're breathing in. Remember to breathe for the whole time. Breathe in, count to 4, breathe out, Count to 5. Breathe in. Say to yourself, I am safe. And as you breathe out, say to yourself, I am at peace. Remember, if you get distracted, just put your mind back on the sound of the rain. Try to listen to the rain and imagine it falling on the ground. And put your mind back on your counting or your phrases. Breathe in, I am safe. Breathe out, I am at peace. All right. Hopefully everyone feels a little more relaxed. And with that, I'd like to end by asking everybody, go around the room and ask everybody something you're looking forward to in the next week. It can be really big or small. It can be you're getting married. It can be as small as you're looking forward to getting a hot fudge sundae with extra hot fudge from McDonald's.
Fair?
What's something you're looking forward to in the next week? Chris?
Work on my house.
Okay. Next?
The hot fudge sundae sounds really good.
It does, doesn't it? I don't get them very often, but they're really good.
I got one special too.
Do they?
McDonald's?
UDF.
UDF.
Oh,
UDF get cherries and get nuts.
they have bigger something to eat. Right?
Going to therapy.
You looking forward to it?
Thing to do.
Okay.
Just breathing and being alive.
Okay. I am looking forward to the weekend when it's not going to be as hot as it's going to be the next few days. I'm looking to having a nice weekend with the kids. All right, thank you, everybody. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you next week.